Yes, sir.
You mentioned in the book on page 96, I believe it is, that you felt frustrated in the early stages of the investigation.
Yes.
Because you felt as if everything you were doing was being scrutinized and nitpicked,
Right.
even though you had been acting by the book, I believe is how you put
right.
it. Maybe I'm missing something, but it doesn't seem quite by the book to tear up a note from the assassin and flush it down the toilet.
That's true. However, I was told to do that. I was following orders. That's true. But the people who were nitpicking me were the ones that ordered me to do it. So I don't feel that that they should have been second guessing me on that point.
Well, that's true. But didn't you wonder that maybe you shouldn't do that? That maybe
Right.
they were ordering you to commit a crime, basically?
Well, as it turned out, it wasn't a crime. As I point out in the book there, it turns out that since Oswald was dead and there could be no trial, and since it had never been entered into the record, and of course I wished I hadn't have done it. I'll tell you that right now, because all of this conjecture about all the false reasons as to why it was done, it was definitely not anything more than just a complaint about me interviewing his wife. But you'd have to understand J. Edgar Hoover. He had a hellacious temper. Now, I can explain this to anybody who's ever in the FBI, and they understand immediately. They say the old man would have blown up, and in order to keep him from blowing up, they just decided we just won't tell him. He was sort of like the emperor in the emperor's clothes. You know, they would not tell. They tell him what he wanted to hear and keep bad things from him. At the time the note was destroyed, Johnson was saying there was going to be no hearings. We're not going to. See, he was worried to death about World War III. So we're not going to have any hearings. Just report back to me, and in other words, the word was out there was going to be a cover-up. So I guess the FBI officials and the CIA and everybody else figured, well, we'll have our little secondary cover-ups. The primary cover-up was what happened in Mexico City, and then the CIA covered up the fact that they were dealing with one of Castro's cabinet officers to try to assassinate him. They covered that up, and I guess then the FBI covered up. I don't know what all the Secret Service and the State Department covered up, but yeah, that's true. I shouldn't have done it. I admit it, and I wished I hadn't. But you've got to remember, we were all in a state of shock. I think I was in more shock over Oswald being killed by Ruby than I was by Kennedy being killed. I have an air that we had received information that